This is the Drive-By with Freeway Frank.
Welcome to the Drive-By Podcast, Episode 6. I'm Freeway Frank still. Nobody at my house. Unfortunately, I've had a couple of last-minute cancellations, and we will resume to having guests over at my place and my home here at the Real Drive-By Podcast Studios. I say studios because there are two. There's one right across from me, right there, with no one in it. I'm doing these solo, hence the name, The Solo Sessions. There I go again, doing this. I'm exercising during the podcast. Why not? Why not? You can't exercise at a gym. Not that I would necessarily be at a gym exercising, but you can't yet here in the province of Quebec, where this show originates from, until at least the middle of February, right? So, okay, I wanted to address something right off the top of this week's podcast. Usually I begin the podcast by mentioning my lead sponsor, and I mention, the sponsors, the people who work with me several times during the show. I believe in the brands that work with me, and it would be completely wrong in my mind to not address what I'm about to say. So I have an announcement to make, and if I were still in radio, I still love radio, by the way. I always mention that. I love radio. But if I were still working in radio, my superiors or, my program director would have told me, this is taboo to do. Never talk about these things when they happen. Of course, you know me, I'm going to talk about everything because that's what this show is about. There's no bullshit. It's not like legacy media where you turn it on and you don't know if you're getting the truth. Most of the time these days are getting blatant lies, but I'm going to tell you the truth. So I'm never going to hold back. So let's begin. I say so a lot too, by the way. I do notice that. So, sowing the seeds of love. We begin this podcast by mentioning that Dormez-vous, my lead sponsor, has decided they don't want to be part of any controversial content. So therefore, they will be stepping away from sponsoring the Drive-By podcast. To say I am not deeply disappointed would be a complete lie. For the machismo to come out and me say, I don't need them and blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm about. So I want to say, although I'm very disappointed that I expected this to happen, because I understand the world we're living in and it doesn't surprise me at all. But I want to make it very clear that I don't want anyone saying anything negative about Dormez-vous on my behalf, or anything negative, period. I thank them, merci beaucoup, from the bottom of my heart, Dormez-vous. We've worked together for close to a decade. I thank them for believing and supporting me through the years. I supported them too, of course. I will continue to believe in their brand and still buy all my, bedding needs at their stores. And I respect the company very much. And it was their decision, 100%, to stop sponsoring me, and we move on. But I do want to thank the president of Dormez-vous, the lead guy, the head honcho, a man that I think he knows, but I'm going to say it, I adore, Stuart Schaefer, who's been good to me, always had time for me, always replied to my texts. We always had conversations, invited me into his office. One of our last chats was in Toronto at the head office, and we sat down. One of the first people to call me when I lost my radio gig. Look, I'm not just saying this. I love the guy. and it's unfortunate that we're no longer working together, but I want to make it very clear that, and I know when people, my dad always used to say, if you need to tell people, then defeats the purpose. Like when people say, I'm not a bad guy and I'm not this and that, but truly, I mean this when I say this. There's no ulterior motive for me doing this drive-by podcast. Some people have written to me and said, it's, we know what you're trying to do. What happened to you? What Kool-Aid did you drink? You're not the same guy. Some people, not everybody. I think the less jaded ones realize I'm still the same person and I'm never going to change. But I have my thoughts and opinions. But these days, you can't have thoughts and opinions if they go against the majority narrative, which to me is out of control. It's out of control what they're doing. And the media is responsible for this, in my opinion. And I'm about to talk about the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa that I was a part of last weekend. I went to Ottawa in just a second, but I want to make it very clear that, and this is, okay, I've moved on from what I announced at the beginning of the show, so this has nothing to do now, no longer, about what I discussed at the beginning. But, there are a lot of people that are still supporting the media, still spending a lot of money on radio stations, TV stations. And I'm telling you, mark my words when I'm saying this, when it all comes down, when the entire legacy media, because it's melting right now, okay? But when it becomes like water, and that's it, it's just a puddle of water, and big sponsors and brands start to abandon legacy media for their lies, blatant lies, by the way, blatant, what we've seen in the last week, especially in regards to the Freedom Convoy, the despicableness of what they've said, how they've distorted reality, is not shocking to me, and at the same time is shocking to me. But as I said, when that boat, I like the boat analogy better, ends up at the bottom of the ocean and brands start to leave legacy media and come back and look for people like me to sell their products, and I will be picking and choosing. So right now I am sponsorless. Again, this has nothing to do with what I said off the top, but nobody is supporting this show. I've had interest. I've had people trying to find out more about how they can advertise, but nobody is supporting me financially. I come on here. This is a I'm in the red here. Okay, all this equipment, everything that I've done has come out of pocket. It's my investment, my risk, and I'm doing it because I love what I do. And we are currently in this crazy COVID world. But once we get back to normal, the podcast won't be about this at all. These topics come up because this is what people are most passionate about and what most people are talking about. Let's be honest. This is what everyone's talking about. So for me to start talking about something completely different and not addressing what's happening in the world today, to me, that's not what I'm about, A, and B. It would be, to me, the people that continue to remain silent is shocking to me. It's just completely shocking that they're ready and willing to talk about anything, and put their social media posts when Hollywood tells them to. And today is the day we got to put something on, right? And then they all start doing it and start telling you how important their causes are. But they're not standing up for anybody right now. Their neighbors, their friends who are, it's like, oh, poor baby. Are you being oppressed? Have you lost your rights and freedoms? That's all they could do, right? They whine and complain and condescension, as we say, condescension au bout in Quebec. max condescension. That's what they're about. They're the true dividers. The absolute true dividers. Like our Prime Minister, Trudeau. What a joke. What a joke. What a divisive, negative, leaderless Prime Minister we have. This guy is that micromanager at your workplace you don't have to see anymore because you're doing your Zooms all day because life will never go back to normal because they don't want our lives to go back to normal. It's evident because nothing's going on. Meanwhile, stadiums and arenas and venues are full all over America, but, let's diss them for continuing to live our lives while we live in, I was going to say pure communism, but that would be an insult to people who came from war-torn countries and real communist countries. But in a society where we just can't justify the numbers anymore, we can't. We can't justify still being in this position, especially here in Quebec, the last place on the planet, it seems, where things are slowly getting back to normal, but not really. Because the minute you have a little bit too much freedom, don't say that word, they pull it back again. This never ends, as I said. Last year on my Instagram lives, and people were unfollowing me, ripping me apart. This never ends. When is this going to end? When does this end? So, this has to stop. The hate directed towards people who have decided not to get vaccinated, the hate towards people who have different opinions, and I don't mean, the idiots out there who infiltrate a peaceful protest or cause and put out their flags and I don't know what's set up anymore, who's real, but it's a few idiots. It really is a couple of yahoos, just like when BLM was happening, and people were burning down buildings and killing people, and those are not the people that represent the majority of the peaceful protesters that are out there. BLM was infiltrated by a lot of bad people. It doesn't mean that the words Black Lives Matter are not important. They're very important. But what it became was something completely different. So with this Freedom Convoy, it's easy to pick and choose what you show the public, what you talk about as the Prime Minister. To me, it's irresponsible when the Prime Minister of Canada comes on and throws the word Nazis, extremists, dividers, people who don't love our country, words like that around so irresponsibly. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. He was voted in minority government twice in a row, barely hanging on to dear life. I don't know how he hangs on to dear life, tell you the truth. And he's talking to a segment of the population like they're nobodies. You don't count because you don't see things the way I do. Therefore, I'm not your Prime Minister. It is repulsive to me that he continues to spread the true hate in this country. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau needs to step down as the Prime Minister of Canada. He has lost control of his leadership. He's not a leader. He's not even a manager, as I said. Barely a micromanager, but he's doing that. There's no doubt about it. And the media that never sees it the other way, the media that completely backs him up 100%, the media that shows the Confederate flags and the Nazi flags that are, the one flag that's... By the way, I was in Ottawa all weekend. I swear on my dad's grave. I hate doing this. Poor guy. Leave him alone. God rest his soul. But I was there with my mother-in-law, who's in her 60s, my wife. We are not racists or extremists. We were there. We walked everywhere. We were at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We were at the Terry Fox statue. We were in front of the Parliament buildings. We were in between the convoy of trucks. We were speaking to truckers. We were speaking to volunteers. We were speaking to other Canadians. We were there. None of this was going on. If somebody goes out with a flag that's inappropriate and posts some crazy picture, whether it's doctored or not, that can't be the message the Prime Minister of Canada leads off with. He can't. He can't start by labeling everybody in the same group or you're part of it if you don't see this is wrong. Of course it's wrong. Of course it's wrong when these idiots and yahoos infiltrate a peaceful convoy. It's 100% wrong. But it happened during BLM. During BLM, people were tearing down statues. Now, I understand that our history, Canadian history, American even more, was based, especially the American one, on revolution, civil war. People were oppressed. African Americans were mistreated and still are today. A disgrace what has happened over our history. The way we've treated First Nations. Unfathomable that this would still be continuing today. The racism. The treatment of other people. We're all human. But understand that you can't say the Terry Fox statue was defaced. And by the way, I saw the statue. It had an upside down Canadian flag, which bothered me. It had end mandates. We shouldn't be putting a sign on Terry Fox saying end mandates. God rest his soul too. And then he had a Canadian hat on. I don't like that stuff, okay? So I saw it from far away, but then somebody took it down. Eventually, somebody brought flowers. But then they're taking down statues of our history. That's okay to tear down statues, to destroy property, set fires, rope a statue and throw it into a body of water like they were doing all summer. That's okay. Violence is okay because these people went through such tough times. They're so angry, they're allowed to do that. We allow it because it's only one part of the spectrum that says we are allowed to do that. You don't know, Frank. No, I don't know. I haven't walked a mile in any of these oppressed people's shoes. I get it. I get it 100%. But it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right that you don't call out people starting violence, defacing statues, trying to erase our history and cancel. And then when the same thing happens here, during the Freedom Convoy, it's bad. It's a bad thing. It's no, and by the way, they didn't tear anything down. Sure, there were, from what I understand, I was at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but from what I understand, when I was there, I didn't see anybody jumping on it or being disrespectful. But from what I understand, whoever did what they did, despicable. I'm a pro-veteran guy till the end, okay? Veterans mean the world to me because my dad fought in World War II. My dad, not my grandfather. Not that there's anything wrong if your grandfather. It was my dad. Okay, my dad had me later in life. He fought in World War II, was shot by a Nazi. Okay, so it's close to me. It's close to me. Veterans have a big place in my heart. I would never allow something like that to happen, and neither did the truckers. But did the media talk about the fact that the truckers, when this happened, they surrounded the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and wouldn't allow anybody close to it anymore? That part you don't hear. You hear all the negative because all these media outlets want to do is divide us. They want to make a clear line between the vaccinated and unvaccinated, conservatives and liberals, or any other party. They want to make it very clear that if you're not with us, you're against us. This is the Prime Minister of Canada. This is our media. And they're in bed together. And the first person that said it was Justin Trudeau. He said it. That's right. The media gives us, we give them so much money. So they owe us some good press. He said it. Actually, the way I said it was a lot better than the way he said it. I shared those posts earlier this week. He said it out of his own mouth. No, it wasn't doctored. He said it. So if you don't see what's going on right now, I don't know what else I could say. But it's destructive to our society. It's destructive to everyday Canadians who get up in the morning, go to work, get into their trucks, leave their families, spend hours on the road, days, weeks, months, years, bringing us everything we need, from entertainment to the essentials of life. And now that they're in Ottawa protesting that, all I hear are the whiners. They're making too much noise. The mayor says we're going to tow them. We're going to get the tow trucks to tow all the trucks. This is what they worry about. We saw an inappropriate flag. They're a bunch of whiners. We've become a society with no backbone. And most of these people are in our parliament. They're supposed to be representing us. They're mayors of towns. They're premiers. They're our prime minister. And they don't give a shit about you. They don't. Unless you're on their side. But that's not what elected officials are put there to do. They're there to listen to every Canadian. They're there to listen to every single one of us, whether they agree or disagree. That's what they owe us. For us putting them into power. We put them there. That's what they need to remember. So what I've been seeing in the last, especially the last, I would say little while, it's a long while, is completely, to me, unacceptable. From the media, unacceptable. From the Prime Minister's office, unacceptable. From certain leaders like Jagmeet Singh and what he said, pretty much linking all conservatives to supporting Nazis and racists. I mean, it's just irresponsible what they're doing. It's political and it's completely irresponsible. That part is shocking to me. When Singh puts out a tweet like he did this week, you got to go check it just to make sure it was put out, and you got to read it, reread it, see if you're interpreting it the way it's written, and ask other people. And then when you see he has 39,000 comments and 38,999 are negative, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So the Freedom Convoy, I was there over the weekend. It was beautiful. We had an amazing time. We met so many different people. Seeing the Canadian flag. I didn't like seeing the Canadian flag upside down, by the way. Did not like that. But I get it. I get it. Canada's in disarray, and some people saying it's upside down. So we put the flag upside down. Not my cup of tea. Not what I would do. But I'm so offended. We live in a wussy society, by the way. Wussies. Everybody's so offended by everything. Well, if you're so offended, do something about it. Go to Ottawa. Go see what these truckers are there for. Go see the love. Go see the peace. Go see if you spot any of those flags and any of those other crazies that the media have been reporting on. You know, the 1 or 2 or 3 whack jobs that are out there, which, by the way, if I saw, I would have removed them personally. This has to stop. This has to stop. Guys, there's no part of me that would ever be part of any type of protest or gathering if I didn't believe in my heart it was authentic and real. Yeah, there's always going to be people that come out. You find things out about their history and what they said. You deal with those people. But it doesn't take away from why those people are truly there. Those people are not there to disrupt Ottawa citizens, other Canadians, neighbors. They're there because they want these mandates to end. We want our lives back. It's been so bad in the last couple of years for everybody. Our healthcare workers who are not given what they need to do their job. Our hospitals, underfunded. Wave after wave after wave. People not being able to get to work, period. Kids having to go to school and not see each other because they're covered by a mask all day. Terrible for mental health. But they'll tell you how important it is to talk about it. But they don't want to talk about it the day after the day. They talk about it once a year. Now the hate has been directed towards some of the Montreal Canadiens' wives for voicing their support of the Freedom Convoy. I mean, people have said the most disgusting things about specific Montreal Canadiens spouses because they came out in support of the Freedom Convoy. It's unbelievable. These trolls exist, mostly as keyboard warriors on Twitter. And we know Twitter is completely woke and distorted anyway, but it is unbelievable to me what they have said. Especially one specific comment by a Montreal writer who said that these players' wives need to be muzzled. Muzzled. Dogs shouldn't be muzzled, but you want to muzzle 2 specific spouses of 2 of the best players we have on the Montreal Canadiens, who have done great things for our community, who have been there at the Children's Hospital. And this is the way you get your message across, that we need to shut them up. Therefore, let's put a muzzle on them. I can't believe they haven't put a muzzle on them yet. You understand that if anyone says this, but the liberal media, you are canceled for life. This is blatant misogyny. And no one said a fucking word. Except for people like myself, the people that write to me and DM me who are shocked. No one came to the defense of these 2 women. Nobody. No strong, powerful women on social media that talk about empowerment, and nobody came to their defense. You know why? Because they support the Freedom Convoy. Had they been supporting something else that Hollywood tells them to support, they would have gotten that social media support, public support. They got nothing. 0. So that's why what's going on is evident to me. If you're not on the right side, which the right side is the left, right? If you're not on their side, especially when you're a left-wing progressive, they're trying to change the world. But it's abusive. It's abusive power. Nothing wrong with changing the world, but it's like to the point of not, they're out of control. These people, they're out of control. They want to cancel anyone who has a different opinion. And as I said, they'll come to the defense of all these people as long as they fit the criteria, their criteria. You see, Caitlyn Jenner, same thing. Caitlyn Jenner, transgendered. one of the most decorated athletes from the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal. But she may have supported Donald Trump. She may be Republican. Irrelevant. Great documentary about her. I respect Caitlyn Jenner. I respect transgendered people. Doesn't matter what party affiliation that you have. Truthfully, I have no party affiliation. People think I'm conservative, alt-right, all this craziness. I'm not. I support what's right. And I've supported liberals, and I've supported Republicans. Either way. I don't support one specific party. I like certain people, what they stand for. I don't like others. I just want them to get things right. And I want to stop hearing, oh, Frank, if you don't, if you think you have a better solution, why don't you get into politics? I don't want to get into politics. It's corrupt, obviously. It's corrupt. I don't want to get into politics. I'm not paid to be a politician. They are. They decided to get into it. They decided they wanted to do this as a career. You're an MP. You're a mayor. Do your job. You're a prime minister. Do your job. Do what the people put you there to do, not divide. So, to me, there's a double standard. It's a clear double standard. And why would anybody, I'll always bring it back to sports, why would any athlete want to come to play here in Montreal? Why? Why would you want to live in a place that creates so much division? Montreal is one of the best cities on the planet. I've been practically everywhere, not everywhere, but to some of the biggest cities in the world, as I'm sure you have. I've been lucky and blessed to go to some amazing places. Montreal is a fantastic city. But let me tell you something. We do, and I'm not talking about Montreal specifically now, I'm talking about Quebec. We do everything. If there was a handbook of what not to do to alienate yourself from other places and countries and provinces, we break all those rules, okay? If there's 100, these are the 100 things you shouldn't do as a society. Well, we've broken all 100, okay? This is how bad things are in Quebec. Why would anybody want to come here? Sign again? Why would you want to live here? Why? I've been born and raised here. I left for 18 years. I got the hell out. I said I was never coming back. I figured it out in the early 90s. I came back for a gig. And I had the last 10 years have been incredible. 11 years, whatever it is, have been incredible. I'm happy to be back, but now there's part of me, especially when I have my wife who's a Western Canadian, who is in my ear almost every day saying, we got to get out of here. And I'm like, Steph, I got to at least attempt to fight the good fight here. See where this takes us. We can't let them do this to Canadians. We can't. To Montrealers, to Quebecers, whoever you are watching this. We can't let the government do this to us. We can't let people do this to us. We all have a right to our personal freedoms, free speech, choice, and that doesn't get determined by some filter that Justin Trudeau puts out. And if you don't fall within his criteria, well, then you're a deplorable. They're promoting a culture of negativity, harassment, bullying, and it's coming from our own government. He's a bully. If the Liberal Party doesn't want to get decimated in the next election, push him out. Get this guy out. Now, I'm not saying that the people waiting to take Justin Trudeau's place are necessarily that much better, but the Liberal Party, they've got to figure something out because there's no way they're looking at this guy and thinking this is the way to go. Justin Trudeau's own half-brother. They have the same mom, Margaret Trudeau. Some say he's, gone rogue, turned his back on his brother. He still says he loves his brother, but disagrees with everything. This is his half-brother, disagrees with every single thing Justin has done. Well, by the way, I'm right with him. And I have no attachment. We don't share the same blood. Something's wrong with this guy. They say Joe Biden is unfit to be president. I'll tell you someone else is unfit to be prime minister after what we've seen him talk about in the last few weeks, what he said. If a conservative MP, prime minister, or anyone in the opposition would ever say any of that, immediate resignation. This guy keeps going. He's the Energizer Bunny. This guy's got a battery pack that's going to keep him going. I don't know how. I don't know who's voting for him, and I don't know how. I really don't. I really don't know. I like to pause for reflection. I like to pause. This is the point where I'd probably be doing a sponsor mention and taking a sip of water or scotch. But this is a midday recording. Not that it means anything for people listening via any of our podcast platforms or watching on YouTube. It doesn't mean anything, right? What time of day I'm recording, but it is the middle of the day. I'm not drinking, I'm drinking water. Surprisingly enough, radio here in the city I live in, Montreal, has slowly started to change their narrative. I was listening to a local talk show. They weren't as abusive to people who didn't share their opinion in the last couple of days. They've actually swayed away from, the finger pointing and the labeling of unvaccinated people as anti-vax. And there's a reason for that. You know what the reason is? They've been inundated with messages. They're getting destroyed. They're getting destroyed. Because out of the 90% who are vaccinated, it's not 90% of the people who agree with the passports. It's not 90% of the people who agree with how 10% is being treated. But these people, so-called broadcasters, have vilified this minority. And let me tell you, had they done this for any other group, they would never have worked in broadcasting again. So whoever's in charge of these radio stations, they've taken them into the office and they've said, back up. Lean back. Lean back. Lean back. Oh, my shirt this week says, usually when I talk, I get paid. That's true. Not anymore. Not anymore. That's okay. That is okay. I've been blessed. I've always had a plan, a game plan. It doesn't mean I don't want to earn money again. I do. Everybody needs to earn a living. But I'm not going to sit here and beg for anybody, like some have, to sponsor my podcast. People know how to reach me. If you want to be a part of it, great. You don't want to be a part of it, I'm going to continue to do this. Too much fun. Too interesting. It's fulfilling. It's fulfilling to come on here and to know that there are people on the other side, whether they agree or disagree, who are watching and want to have a conversation. As long as you want to have a conversation, I'm cool with that. But when the name calling starts, when the insults begin, when you want to muzzle people, when the misogyny begins, when the finger pointing begins, when outrageous comments are made like you support racists and Nazis, I'm out. I'm not part of that conversation. I never will be, and I will never entertain these yahoos and clowns out there who start up fake accounts and just want to be vile. And I don't know what they're doing in their basements. Well, I know what they're doing in their basements. The curtains are pulled. They're on Pornhub, and, in between, they're attacking people like me who have an opinion. But there's not as many now anymore. There's not as many. No. We're soon going to be defeating all of them, because in the end, when this all ends, people will be exposed for who they really are, and we will never forget. We might let some bygones be bygones, but we will remember. We will remember. I will remember. I won't ever forget. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all the other evil people on the planet. We'd have no platform if we didn't have any of these platforms, but I appreciate some of them, and some of them, some people remind me. I know. Look, I'm not a big fan of some of these companies and what they're about, but we try to get the message out. I try to get the message out, try to be as balanced as possible. And I'm going to make enemies, and I've made quite a few, but life goes on long after the thrill of living's gone. Thank you, John. Good old Midwestern American. Wonder how he feels about all this. Not that I care. Thanks for watching again. On YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Drive-By Podcast. And we'll see you again next week with a guest, I hope, on the Drive-By Podcast. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
This is the Drive-By with Freeway Frank.